Now on ESPN.com, Bobby, you broke down all of the teams in the league's chances of making a deal with the Sixers for Ben Simmons. You broke it down into 5 tiers. Here's a look at the teams most likely to be in the hunt: the Trailblazers, the Cavs, the Pacers, the T-Wolves, the Spurs, and the Raptors. Bobby, which of these potential deals makes the most sense for both teams here?
Well, I think when you look at teams like Portland, certainly with C.J. McCollum, I think with San Antonio, with players like Derek White and Dejounte Murray, I think those are the 2 teams that probably makes the most sense. But the one thing to keep in mind is that we're 1 week into training camp. Everybody loves their roster right now, right? Nobody is going to make a deal and shake up their roster until maybe we get into that early part of November and a team thinks they're a Ben Simmons player away. They're struggling at that point. It's hard to make these type of deals in training camp. But when you take the 29 teams and you put them into 5 different categories, really there's only 5 or 6 teams that have the right pieces to make a Simmons-type deal.
Zach, who do you look at on that list and say, this is a team I think makes sense?
Well, what I look on that list is when you flash the Portland screen up, the 3 words that are most interesting to Philadelphia were off the table in front of Damian Lillard, because they would like Damian Lillard to be very much standing on the table waiting to be acquired. I do think Portland makes the most sense and a straight Ben Simmons, C.J. McCollum swap. The problem is I think both GMs involved, Daryl Morey and Neil Olshey, would say, hey, we're trading the better player. You got to throw something in to make us do it. And that's a stalemate that I don't think is going anywhere anytime soon. I think a wild card in there, Bobby mentioned San Antonio, that's one. Another team that I'm looking at, particularly if they got off to a slow start, a team that's got a lot of overlapping personnel, underachieved last year, made a huge coaching change, and that's Indiana. And they've got a lot of interesting players that could fit with Joel Embiid. The problem is they only have one guy who's an all-star, and that's Domantas Sabonis, and he was kind of the last all-star that made it in. I just think Philly is looking at those pieces, and he's obviously a center. He plays the same position as Joel Embiid. I think Philly would look at a Malcolm Brogdon or a Karis LeVert and say, wait a second, Ben Simmons made All-NBA 2 seasons ago. We got to get someone of commensurate value. We're trying to win right now. It's going to be really hard to make a deal.
Wendy, what do you think?
Yep, Zach just hit it. I think the sleeper team in this whole situation is the Indiana Pacers. First off, I know that they don't have an All-NBA player to trade. I realize that. But they have a bunch of really good players. And as Bobby illustrated in that list, they control all of their picks. That is not like the Portland Trailblazers. They don't control, trade a package of players and picks the way a team like Indiana can. Plus, Kevin Pritchard likes to trade for guys who are under contract. They know that they're never going to be a free agent destination. So when they trade for a guy like Victor Oladipo, or they trade for a guy like Karis LeVert, who has a bunch of years left, they like that. They love the idea of being able to trade for a player like Ben Simmons, who they would have team control over. It makes a lot of sense, especially because with as much talent as they have and as much money as they're spending, I still think they're just in the middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference. And they've got a premium coach now in Rick Carlisle. You can try to add a premium talent there. I think they are sitting there waiting for the Sixers to come to terms with, make the best deal they can, because I think they can put forth an offer that few teams can rival.
Basketball fans certainly love a transaction, so I'm sure plenty are tuning in right now and are scrolling to get to this Bobby article on ESPN.com. There's a second tier as well with some very interesting teams and names here. The Hawks, the Celtics, the Pelicans, and the Warriors. Bobby, which one there makes some sense?
Well, the one team that intrigues me a little bit is Atlanta, and I don't think many people have talked about it, and just because of the fact that eventually they're going to have to make a decision on players like Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter. They have the big contracts with Bojan Bogdanovic, Danilo Gallinari here. That's something for down the road. Especially if this team struggles, and there's a lot of expectations in Atlanta to get to potentially an Eastern Conference Finals. But the Hawks intrigue me just because of a Ben Simmons, Trae Young backcourt.
Zach, where do you lie on this one?
I think the Hawks strike me as a team that's like, wait a second. We just made the conference finals. We're good. We're rising. A shakeup of that magnitude right now almost feels premature and unnecessary, even with what Bobby just said about they're going to have to consolidate some of these players down the line because they can't pay everybody. The wild card team to me there is Boston, because when we talk about good teams that control all their picks. We don't hear about the Celtics very much, and the Celtics, I think, would be looking at a situation where we're not trading Jaylen Brown, we're not trading Jason Tatum, but hey, we got all these picks, we got all these swaps, we can get in on these trades. The problem is it would have to be a 3-team trade because they're not trading Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. They like, I think, the idea of Simmons plus Tatum plus Brown is this sort of 3 supersized wings, all good defenders. Simmons can screen and run and pass. I think that's an interesting one, but I think it would have to be a tricky 3-team trade.
Brian?
A 3-team trade is a no-team trade. I know they happen, but they die 99% of the time. I don't like the fit for any of these, to make it simple. And I can tell you, I understand why Bobby put the Warriors on here, but we can scratch the Warriors because their owner just got fined $50,000 for saying we're not trading for Ben Simmons. So I don't think that's going to happen in the short term.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.